you mentioned you write what you know, but there's so many different characters in this. Can you tell me how you came up with this story?
Yeah, so I'm asexual and I wanted to continue exploring that on screen, but not necessarily in a way where the character is constantly telling people they're asexual. Um, and just showing platonic intimacy and that you can have a connection with somebody without sex was very important to me. And then I also wanted to explore what female empowerment looked like from a sexual angle and use Jeff's real experience of being in a long, healthy, happy, committed relationship. And I wanted to see like what one version of evolution in that would look like, where you do trust each other and are interested in opening up and exploring things.
Wonderful. Jeffrey, now you mentioned that you worked together with Margarita in an acting class. How did you come aboard as a producer on this as well? Was it just kind of a organic process, or did you want to produce?
Well, I think what really was the origin was I really wanted to work with Margarita and Stacey. And, given their success historically working together, I knew that I could learn a lot sort of partnering with this team and collaborating on this project. So I absolutely wanted to be involved as a producer. And also the story really evolved organically with conversations with Margarita and Stacey. And I think that some of the areas that, I found very interesting is exploring the complexity of marriage and also being middle-aged. Sort of what is it like to kind of be middle-aged and maybe, sex isn't number one, number two, or number three, sort of on your interests. And I think one of the things that the short film also explores is sort of food as a metaphor for sex and desire. Clearly, Jack is very into, food and that experience, while his wife, Ruby, wants to explore sort of other aspects of her sexuality.
There was a version of the script where Tanya was a chef, but we have to cut that out in order to make it possible. But also, I will say, like you said, there's so many different storylines. And so, as a writer, like I wrote the bones, and then Stacey, brought a lot of herself to the project, obviously, as the director. And it's through her bringing herself to it that we were able to capture the like romantic sexual aspects of the characters through Ruby and Rex's eyes.
Stacey, with this project, I'm looking at your bio here. You've done so many things. What separates this project from the other stuff you've done?
I think, Appetite is really in so many ways like perfectly fits in with like my brand and aesthetic. And, it's just such a gift every time you get to work with people that you really like love and trust and can be vulnerable with. And that, we had really intense rehearsals where, we were all throwing out ideas, finding things. Like I was asking Margarita and Jeffrey to go really like into an emotional journey as these characters, and through these sort of improv exercises, a lot of things came up. And so really this project was really wonderful because we got to use those rehearsals to further like deepening the script based on like sort of these emotional moments that happened between the two of them there. And that's really great, to just work with people who are so open. And I think that it's just like a perfect culmination of like all of our relationships and how they have developed over the years. I'm also like a very sex positive person. I love to show sex in a really like beautiful way, like female gazy type stuff. And so I was immediately drawn to being able to do that here.
Wonderful.
It's also interesting because Jack is the central character of the story. And this is one of the few things I've seen where the male character essentially gives up control. And, it's up to him to say yes or no, I want to or I don't want to, but he really like lets the women and other people around him lead the way and like lets himself learn things that way. I also want to say that as a person like over quarantine, you know, one of the things I really been thinking about is like process and the journey along the way to the result. And this film was so much fun. Like the rehearsals were so much fun. Writing was so much fun. Like being on set, it was just such an incredible, like all around experience for me.
Great. Now, Stacey, when I looked on your Instagram page, it looks like you have like other films out in this festival circuit as well. I mean, you mentioned before you did like 21 films, and you're very prolific in the amount of work that you do. Where do you find the time to do all this?
I don't sleep a lot. No, it's really interesting because the pandemic was such an interesting time of really like slowing down actual production on stuff. Like there was a period of time where we were really like producing and like doing so many different projects. And so slowing down over the last year really like forced us to take a look at the things that we're developing and, look at the art in a different way. But yeah, we do. We have some great projects out there. Our feature film, Triple Threat, that I wrote and directed. Margarita is one of the stars of. Jeffrey is also an executive producer on the feature film. That's doing festivals right now, and we're like really excited. We're hoping that that's going to be like widely released, late summer, early fall. Yeah, so that's a project to look out for if I'll do a little plug.
That's good. So how is this film doing in the festival circuit?
Appetite?
Yeah, Appetite.
Appetite's doing great. We recently got to go see it screen live for the first time. I mean, we got to see it twice recently, and those two festivals were sort of like back to back, but they were the first time because we've been doing virtual festivals. So it was like very cool, to see it because doing it virtually is amazing too. And it's really great because more people have gotten to see it, like a wider range of people have gotten to see it. But we had never really seen it with an audience before, because we really shot this film like 2 weeks before the city shut down. So it was like definitely a different experience to see it with other people in the room rather than just like us frantically emailing notes and like trying to figure out the edit on it. It felt like we made it in a vacuum in a way just because of the pandemic having shut everything down.
So let's wrap this up by everyone kind of saying what they're doing next, so we can look forward to more work from you guys. Stacey, since you're on screen right now, what are you doing next besides the feature film? You got like 3 or 4 projects going?
Yeah, I'm directing a web series in the fall called Mashed. I'm super excited about that. Bessie's Make Movies is also producing it. Margarita is producing and acting in it. It's a really, really beautiful series written by Madeline Grace. And so I'm pretty excited about that project. And then I've got a few feature scripts that I'm working on developing right now too. So yeah.
Margarita, what are you doing next?
Definitely very heavily involved in the development of Mashed and getting that project ready. So I'm super excited about that. And Jeffrey and I are working on turning Appetite into a series. And we're also co-writing another project that I'll let Jeff tell you about.
Okay, Jeffrey.
So Margarita and I wrote a horror short script that actually has done extremely well in screenwriting contests and actually won Best Short Screenplay at the Oregon Short Film Festival. And based on the success of the short, we are now writing the feature version of it. It's called Zasha, and it is about torturing a vegan and has a little cannibalism in it. And it is, it's actually a pretty exciting project. And then in addition to Zasha, I'm the executive producer, and I'm also acting in a feature film, Escaping Ohio, which will start filming in August. And that's a short film that I was an associate producer of. So that's very exciting.
Wonderful.
Like, I just want to plug Jessica Michael Davis because she's awesome, and that's her film.
That is her film.
And Besties is co-producing it also. So we've got our hands in a lot of pots.
You guys are
Yeah.
you guys are very, very busy.
Yeah. I will say like something that's important to us as besties make movies is to support other up and coming filmmakers. So that's working on Escaping Ohio with Jeff and Jessica is very rewarding.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate this.
No worries.
No problem.